Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome everyone to our 14th session on how to study the Bhagavad Gita. Today we will do chapter 11, which is the Vishwarup Darshan. Nilesh, this appears to be the extension of chapter 10, and in this chapter, Arjun starts by saying that his moha has gone now. And can you please show me your darshan or give me your darshan? So, how will you summarize this chapter for us, the Vishwarupa Darshan?
Well, you summarized it actually. It is an extension of 10th chapter. In 10th chapter, Krishna has discussed various vibhutis, like how anyone in any walks of life, anywhere, in any stage, inside the house, outside the house, different parts of the world, wherever you are, whatever activity you are engaged in, you can simply think of uh, a particular aspect of the Drushya Srishti as a vibhuti of Krishna. And by way of illustration, Krishna is telling all those vibhutis in the 10th chapter. Now, this is actually an extension of it. So that is a description. Now, so if you think of it as a description, now this is a realization, like an experience of it. And so that's how I will describe the 11th chapter, Vishwarup Darshan. And so it is as you said correctly, it is an extension of a 10th chapter, because what are the different things discussed in 10 chapters? We are discussing Himalaya, and we are discussing the Ganga, the biggest of the big things, and celestial, the Aditya Maham Vishnu, right? And Masana Margashirishayam Nakshatrana Maham Shashi. Now just imagine all of this, if there is a way to experience all of this together. So this could be like the space, crunching the space together, but also crunching the time, like the past, present, and future. That can be very exciting. That can be very scary. Okay. And yeah, so we'll talk about that. But that's the summary of what 11th chapter is. It's experiencing what is already been described through the 10 chapters, but especially chapter 10th.
Right. But when you go through the chapter 11, you see Krishna, Arjun sees everything in Krishna. All the kings, everything, the Surya, the Vishnu, the Shiva, everything in him. And he's scared. So, I mean, is this provable if anybody was to ask? I mean, okay, Krishna gave the Vishwarup Darshan, which Arjun saw. And Sanjay also saw, because he narrated it and Vyasji wrote it. But is this provable? Can we prove it? Can somebody prove this? Or how scientific is this? I mean, what is your thought on whether this can be proven?
Right.
Whether it actually happened?
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. I have done a partial version of it, but not like a full-fledged 3D experience. But you might have seen people wear that 3D thing around their head, and like some wires and some the gloves, sensitive gloves which are connected, will go into it, and then people participate into a 3D experience, like literally, the physically, like they may be seeing things. I have not done it in a full-fledged way, other than I would say 3D movies, or say games, sometime.
Now that you say it, even like past life regression experiments that happen, even we were part of one of it. So
correct. But let's come to past life regression in a minute. See, the past life regressions would have the same problem. For example, like think of when we were there at Brian Weiss, right? Brian Weiss session. So your and my experience was nowhere close to some of the exciting things that people were experiencing. Right. We are in the same place. Possibly the very fact all of those people were there. I mean, there may be some skeptics, but those people who were having experience, either they had no skepticism to begin with, or if they were skeptic, their skepticism was gone possibly through those experiences. Therefore, they were narrating the experiences. Of course, we can say some may be faking it, but that's besides the point. We didn't have that much of an experience. So that's like that. But so there it becomes also a bit of subjective. Somebody had it and others did not have it. But precisely for that reason, I was taking that 3D game. Or think of like, say, we going to Disney World. And I'm trying to think, was it Disney World or somewhere else? But say you and me, that Mars mission or something like that, right? I think it was Disney World, let's say. So that Mars mission experience, like you physically sitting in this thing, and it's a sort of a perception, but is it real? No, we know that it's not real, meaning it's a simulation. What if we were not told that it's a simulation? But again, this can go into multiple branches. So I want to bring it in some other fashion together. So your point was, is it provable? Anything that's it's an objective experience, but it's a experience of a one. You always have this challenge. For example, therefore I was taking the 3D example, 3D game example, because most people would have an experience with this, although I don't have it. Let's take another example that most people will able to relate to. For example, the experience of dreaming. Okay. Now, there may be few exceptions, but I would say almost close to 100% people will able to say that they know what dream is. But what if somebody did not have a dream, like, right from the beginning, he or she has a dreamless sleep. And then rest of us who get dreams all the time, are trying to tell him, hey, that's what happens. Now what do we do? To that one person who never have that experience, we will try to explain it, just like, right now we are talking here and experiencing something, fear or joy or something. We may eat here and we may go for a walk. Something similar happens, but in reality, nothing is happening. We are in the sleep. But because most people have the experience of a dream, if you describe your dream, they don't even ask oh, wow, what is that? No, they say, oh, tell me your dream, because they also have the experience of it. And therefore, in some modern science also, but Adhyatma also, exactly same. Just we call it triangulation of explanation, prediction, testing. Okay. Or pratyaksha, anumana, right? And agama, background knowledge. Okay. Other people's experiences, then pratyaksha, and from that some anumana, some inference. You see that in the Adhyatma, in the language of Atma Pratiti, Guru Pratiti, Shastra Pratiti. So Shastra Pratiti is more like Agama. Atma Pratiti is like a Pratyaksha, when you personally experience it. And Guru Pratiti is someone you have a Shraddha. That person is describing something. And so on an inference basis, you will accept it because you have a Shraddha. Okay. So for example, that is, all these three are mentioned in this Adhyaya. I'll give you a shlok number, or even may say it briefly just to emphasize that point. The constant factor among all three that Krishna is explaining, or rather we should say Vyasadeva is explaining in Bhagavad Gita through different individuals. So Krishna is saying it himself, Sanjay is saying Sanjay is saying it, and then Arjuna is referring to it. So, for example, in the 11th Adhyaya, if you go to Shlok 4, number 4, Manyase yadi tat shakyam. If you think it's possible, Arjuna is saying to Krishna after referring to the 10th chapter, he says, Maya drashtumiti prabho, I would like to see it, and if you can show it to me. The important word there, Yogeshwara tato me tvam. So the reference is given to Yogeshwar. So like this is like, think of that as a Atma Pratiti that Arjun is requesting. Yogeshwar. So the word he's using is a Yogeshwar. Arjuna is aware that this is possible to be seen through yoga.
Correct.
Okay. This is a Parameshwar Krupa. Some things is like we put an effort and we get it. Of course, we can always say there is a Krupa is required, but this is like a Parameshwar Krupa. Unless somebody else does it, it's not going to happen. Unless in a 3D game, unless that 3D equipment is there, no matter how much I want to see the experience, it's not going to happen. In case of dream, even it's more interesting. I can get the dreams, but I do not have a control over what dream I am going to get tonight, or if I am going to get the dream. So it is at the mercy of something.
And you may not remember it also.
Well, that of course happens, but that's a different factor. Even if I remember what dream I'm going to get, and if I'm going to get a dream, that's just not there. And of course, if I don't remember, then there is not even a discussion of it. So this is 11.4, where think of this as a Atma Pratiti, or Arjun requesting Atma Pratiti, so to say. He wants to personally experience it. Manyase yadita shakyam maya drashtum iti prabho yogeshwara tato metvam darshayatman avyayam. If you can show it to me. Now, when Sanjay is describing, here I will compare Sanjay's description as a Shastra Praman or Shastra Pratiti, because then Krishna is saying it. So I'm going to take that as a Guru Pratiti, because Krishna is the one who is showing it. And in this context, Krishna is like a guru to Arjun. But Sanjay is saying Eva Mukta, when that is done, like he is telling it to Dhritarashtra, when Arjun requested it, and then Krishna is saying something, and then he says, hey, Krishna says, I have to give you Divya Drushti. You will not able to show it with your ordinary vision. That's like getting that 3D equipment, as we are using that as a metaphor, getting that 3D equipment. Divyam dadami te chakshu paschame yogam aishwaram. You need a different kind of drishti. Divyam dadati te chakshu. So just like a 3D, unless you have that 3D setup, you are not going to have that 3D experience. Unless you sleep, you are not going to have a dream, just like that. And in that context, now Sanjay is saying it to Dhritarashtra. He says, Eva Mukta, this is 11.9, Eva Mukta Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Hari. I'm trying to emphasize Arjun is referring as a Yogeshwar. Sanjay is describing, he's saying, Eva Mukta Tato Rajan Mahayogeshwaro Hari Darshayamasa Parthaya Paramam Rupam Aishwaram. And in that case, Sanjay showed it to, Krishna showed it to Arjun through his yoga, that Param Rupa. And then quickly, just to complete the answer on this one, the Guru Pratiti, you can say, okay, or whatever the third word you want to use, is shlok number 47, I think. Okay, I have a Bhagavad Gita in front of me here. It's 47. Sri Bhagwan Uvacha, this says, Maya Prasannena Tavarjunedam. I will just read the first two lines. Rupam Param Darshita Atma Yogat. I showed this to you via Atma Yoga, my Atma Yoga. Rupam Param Darshitam Atma Yoga. Through my yoga Shakti, you can say, I showed this to you, what I showed it to you. So that's a Atma Pratiti. Atma Pratiti in the sense of Arjuna requesting it. Krishna showing it is a Guru Pratiti, you can say, okay, or Rishi Pratiti, whichever one you want to use that. And Shastra Pratiti. So this is also a Adhyatmic triangulation. You read somewhere, you hear it from an experienced person, and then you experience it yourself. And again, through this Krupa, Arjun could see that. So that's the answer to that. Also, one more point I will add. In a way, because Arjun is asking, only if you think it's possible, show it to me.
Correct.
Now, the fact that in a way, we don't get to experience, like, there are these different siddhis we talk about, or Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedana. These are different ways of doing bhakti, and there are corresponding effects to this. Or as you progress in bhakti, or as you progress in...
Before you continue, I have a question which I think is related to what you are saying.
Okay.
So Arjun says, my moha is gone, and if it is possible, show me your Divya Darshan. Krishna says, I will show it to you through Divya Drushti, and through my yoga samarthya.
Yes.
And I will show it to you because it is possible for you to see it. Even it is not possible for the devas also to see it, at times, but I will show it to you because for you it is possible, and because of my Divya Drushti. But how common people like us? I mean, wherever we will get this ability or grace to be able to see something like this, or I mean, this is one is Divya, the Vishwarupa Darshan. Second is even the realization, Atma Jnana. If you even come to an Atma Jnana level, so how is it for a common man to progress to that level? where
Yeah,
he has somebody's krupa,
yeah,
as well as he has an ability in himself or
yeah.
herself to be able to see that,
Yeah. So two questions, I mean, sub questions, something I'll say. And if I forget the second one, remind me. So one is like how common man able to see it, number one. And Krishna says, Arjun, you are qualified and
Yes.
you, therefore you'll able to see it. Now, in that context, I was saying, so glad you stopped me there. In that context, I will say, isn't it nice that actually it is a Bhagavad Krupa that unless we are qualified, we don't get to see it or we don't get to experience something. Okay, for example, if you think of some adventurous sport like a bungee jumping, people are doing bungee jumping. Of course, people go up in the space or up in the sky and then do the free fall, like how many kilometers, whatever they did. People go to space. People do free fall from the aeroplane, like with uh, whatever you call the parachute and stuff like that. Just as a action sport, I'm talking, skiing. Unless you are trained into something, you shouldn't go and do some adventurous downhill skiing from the top of the mountain and jumping or something. I mean, that's not good.
Right.
Almost like there are these checks and balances into the adhyatmic progress, we can say. And this is adhyatma, like the Vishwarup darshan that he's saying. Therefore, Krishna is feeling confident. Krishna is saying, yeah, yeah, you are ready. You can
Yeah.
experience it. And still we see that even when Krishna is saying it, then Arjun is scared. Arjun is palpitating, I mean, so yes, if it's a first experience, then that can happen. So that's the first part. Um, it is a God's grace, we will say. It's a Bhagwan's Krupa that unless we are qualified, we don't say it. That's
Mhm.
number one.
Mhm.
Again, there is a issue. Therefore, precisely for that reason, I would say there is a issue of a subjective experience. Because someone cannot see, this is again a challenge, by the way, side subject, but this is all I experience it. Like somebody, even in the research that I do, people come and ask a question in the social media. And if I put some diagram, like it happened even yesterday, I put in a Arundhati Vasishtha, and I'll use that to answer your second part. And people say, oh, yeah, explain it to me. Like, yeah, I saw the diagram. Now explain it to me. Like, I mean, just have no idea that this is not something that can be explained in this. It's not meant. That's not the reason I posted the diagram. I mean, it's the curiosity hopefully leads them to watching hundreds of videos or reading a book multiple times. Or, I mean, that's the idea. Many people have just no idea. Now, just to bringing that in the our related question, somebody says, "Oh yeah, but okay, whatever that is, Vishwarup Darshan. I also want to see Vishwarup Darshan." The point is that you don't demand. I mean, you may demand. It's a useless demand. It's a demand of a lazy person. I also want to become the CEO. Why don't you make me a CEO? Well, you don't demand making it CEO. I mean, you have worked for it. So that's one aspect of it. And again, I think it's a Bhagavad Krupa because we know Arjuna's experience. Once he saw it, he's just scared, and he says, no, 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 please wind this up. I want to see your Soumya Rupa. That's what he's saying. The second aspect you said, can everyone experience it? Again, for that, we need a Bhagavad Krupa. And there is a Bhagavad Krupa is there. We will take that as another part of this particular chapter. But just again, using that Arundhati Vasishtha explanation, whereas very people with no background of astronomy, people with, I mean, children, like, the 6 and 10 and 8-year-old children just see the wisdom of it. I mean, see just visually and says, oh, wow. I mean, I used to do this, not even blind experiment. I say, who is going ahead? Who is crossing? Oh, yeah, that's Arundhati. I used to do in elementary schools, literally go and ask them. Now, who is going ahead? The small star is Arundhati, big star is Vasishtha. They say, now it's Vasishtha, now it's Arundhati. Now, while this can be so easily said, that something like people should get goosebumps, rather they become a skeptic. Now, they may become skeptic for their own reason because of their dogmatic attitude, and they are not ready for the shock. Just like Arjun also gets shocked. So sometimes the knowledge, even the ordinary knowledge, I mean, Arundhati Vasishtha is not ordinary, but in the sense of Vishwarup Darshan, it's somewhat ordinary. Even the ordinary knowledge is also prevented from coming to us if we are not qualified.
Yes.
So that qualification needs to be at the level of not just a pratyaksha, but it also needs to be at the level of intellect, agama, anumana. When that is not there, it will not happen.
True.
So that's the answer to
One
second
needs to,
part.
yeah, one needs to, I think, individually progress in their sadhana, his or her sadhana, also to be able to get the Krupa Drishti of Bhagavan.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to end this by saying that this entire Vishwarup Darshan is actually 16th shlok of Ishavasya.
Hmm.
उशनेकऋषेयमसूर्य प्राजापत्यव्यूहरश्मिन् समूह तेजो यतते रूपं कल्याणतमं
Hmm.
योऽसावसौ पुरुषः सोऽहम् अस्मि. So the person who is doing the prayer tells the Bhagwan, who is the creator
Hmm.
of this Vishwa, who or is
Hmm.
the maintainer of this Vishwa, that show me your brightness, your
Hmm.
Rashmin,
Hmm.
the light, the
Hmm.
Kiran.
Hmm.
And I'm seeing, once he says, I'm seeing it, he says, oh, that is me.
Hmm.
Then he doesn't see any difference between that, the Bhagwan and himself. So
Hmm.
it's very beautifully, the entire actually Vishwarup Darshan is summarized in this one shlok of Ishavasya, is what I think.
Yeah. So no, absolutely. And so now, if you want to, so what you just said in the Ishavasya, what was
Mm,
that, 16 shlok? You
mm,
will see that. So there it says Vyuha Rashmin, Vyuha Samuha.
mhm,
Vyuha Rashmin, Vyuha is like a formation. So when sun is rising, see that's the meditation on the Surya. Vyuha Rashmin, so sun is rising and sun spreads all its rays in a different direction. Okay. And as if at the sunset, as if it's pulling all the rays inside. That is Samuha, Vyuha Samuha. It comes inside. So when we see this spread, to understand that spread is not any different than when it is brought in together. Similarly, a Vishwarup darshan or a darshan of that Vishwarupa into a small manageable form where we are not having palpitations, like say our Murti Puja. That's the
mm,
beauty of a Murti Puja, for example. So that can be seen there, and that example is given in this chapter also, what you just said from Ishavasya Upanishad. For example, if you go to Shlok 10 through 14, okay, I will not say all the Shlok, but the number 10 Shlok is basically what? Aneka Vakran, I mean, so of course it's a Vishwarup Darshan. Aneka Vakra Nayanam, Aneka Adbhuta Darshanam, Aneka Divyabharanam, Divya Nekodyata Yudham. That Vishwarup Darshan form with many eyes,
yes,
very fascinating, many clothes, many ayudha in their hand. So now what is that? That is a Murti Swarup. I mean, of course, in our puja room, we can have a Murti of Vishnu, Shankha Chakra Gada Padma kind of thing. Now the next slok says, Divya Malam Baram Dharam, Divya Gandhanu Lepanam. Sarvashcharyam Devam Ananto Vishwato Mukham. So this Vishwarupa, Divya Malam Baram Gandham, Divya Gandhanulepanam, which is like we're doing a puja, like,
yes,
the Shodashopchar puja that we do, take out Nirmalya, give them a snan, then give them Gandha, all chandan, tulsi leaves, whatever is appropriate for each deity, then give the flowers. And then what do? Next thing we do is what? We have an incense stick and we may have a lamp, right? That is that verse number 12. Divi Sahasra Surya, Divi Surya Sahasrasya, Bhavedyuga Paduddita, Yadi Bha Sadrushim Sya. Now, in this case, because it's a Vishwarup Darshan, the Niranjan that is used is like a multiple Surya. Okay, because it's a Vishwarup Darshan, so there has to be an appropriate lamp, for that. And then the last one, what you just said, so aso purusha soham asmi. Like after doing this, and when we close our eyes or when we do the namaskar after the puja is over, and we keep the eyes closed or open and look at it, the idea is to realize that there is no difference. That is that the experience of Advaita. With ऐसी क्रिया किरणस आहे परी अद्वैती भक्ती आहे और देवी, what is that, देव देऊळ परिवारू की जे कोरुनी डोंगरू तैसा भक्तीचा व्यवहारू कानो हवा. In the stone.
जे पिंडी ते ब्रह्मांडी.
Pindite Brahmandi, correct. So Pindite Brahmandi is in the sense of Murti in your puja room and the Vishwarup darshan that Arjun is experiencing. They are the same. You have a Murti right now because that's your qualification. That's our qualification. We are not ready for that 3D experience, so to say. When we are there, it will come. And that is our Satatya Yoga. I mean, we don't ask how long.
Yeah.
That is not the question eligible in the bhakti or on the path of Adhyatma. quickly, last point, and we can, then I'll give back to you and you can close. After this, like you said, after we have that experience of oneness, like, that is that verse 13, tatraikastham jagatskrutnam pravibhaktam anekadha apashya deva devasya sharire pandavastada. Okay, so that experience now, what he's saying, and he's, of course, in Vibhuti Yoga, Krishna has already said it, Pandavanam Dhananjaya, okay, or among the Vrishnis, I am Vasudeva, he himself is there, Pandavanam Dhananjaya. Now, that is what he's seeing here. He's not seeing now, Arjun is not seeing separate from that form. That is that so, aso, aso, purusha, soham, asmi, like to the realization. And once you have that, then what is your ultimate experience? Now that I can talk only in terms of a theory, because I cannot claim that I have experience of that Advaita and Romancha. I get experience of Romancha, but I don't know if that's Advaita. But that 14 verse is that basically, if you go through this process with a Shraddha and you have reached a certain level of expertise, you will get that experience of what the Bhakti produces or Adhyatma produces. That is that verse 14. Tatassa Vismaya Avishto Drushta Roma Dhananjaya. He's, you can explain it better, but, he's getting Romancha. Right? Yeah. That is the outcome of a bhakti. Like, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu talks about it, all the great saints talk about it. So he's having, so what you just described in Ishavasya Upanishad, or what people are practicing every day as a Satatya Yoga when they are doing the Murti Puja. So here you see the emphasis or the usefulness of Murti Puja is explained, but in a different language. And outcome is also immediately given, that Arjun is feeling the romanch.
So, I've been doing sadhana for many years now, and I've been discussing my experiences with you, as to what kind of experiences I do get when I'm in a dhyan. So I can easily relate to this Vishwarup darshan, and from my point of view, from my sadhana point of view. Of course, there's a long way to go, but that satatya is so very, very critical. Being the satatya yoga and doing your sadhana daily, with a lot of shraddha is extremely important. And I think we can end here now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what I'll say is, like, so you have that experience, or relatively frequently. I cannot claim that I have that experience, and I think that
yeah, we can discuss that some other time. Yeah.
Right. But my point is, that honesty is required, because otherwise I can fool myself that I'm also having experience because you're also having experience. Yes, but I can learn from yours, right? And so when I have it, there is something to compare.
Correct. And each one need not have the same experience. We all will have our own different share of experiences.
Correct.
That is also very normal.
Yeah.
So I think we'll end here.
Yeah. Quickly, one more point. Now that you said something, which is to say, no,
always wants to have the last word.
No. You will have the last word. but when Arjun saw Vishwarup Darshan, of course he was a bit frightened and scared and all that, but he also enjoyed it. He also had a romancha. Now, when Krishna showed Vishwarup Darshan to the folks who were present in Hastinapur when he went on a peace mission, they were scared. Yeah. So maybe Krishna showed a different form, or irrespective of that, because they are not qualified, suddenly they are feeling dizzy. So that what you just said, everyone can have a different experience, and it could be because of that. Now you get the last word. Go ahead.
All right. I'll just thank everyone. Thank you, everyone. See you for the next episode. Jagdamba, Jagdamba, Jagdamba.